Hi, in this edition of HaltonHour Features, I'm chatting to Raymond Smith. Ray is a leadership coach at Insight Leadership Solutions, and he helps people and businesses take control of their success and really tackle commitments and get things moving along. I had a really interesting chat with him, so have a listen. Let me know what you think. Hi Ray, welcome to HaltonHour.
Morning, Jan.
Morning. Would you like to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you do it for?
Well, I'm a leadership coach, and I work with people to help them take control of their success, understand how to manage challenge, tackle commitments, and boost their confidence. I work with a variety of people from all walks of life, all sizes of company, public sector, private sector. So it's a case of if people want some help to improve their effectiveness or confidence, or deal with management issues if they're struggling in work, to sort of deal with staffing issues, or even if it's an individual, trying to get to grips in their professional life, I can help them with that.
Right. I mean, you mentioned leadership and leadership coaching. I mean, that gets quite, it's really, really broad, isn't it? Because it can apply to any stage in life and in business and for professionals. Is there any particular person or business type that you really enjoy working with and have, and because you enjoy working with them, you have really fabulous success and transformations?
It's a bit hard to pin down, because when you're talking about business, people talk about having their own niche and sort of focusing in an area. And I think that works for some people, but as a leadership coach, I can work with anybody really. And to give you an understanding of some of the clients I work for, I've worked with senior leaders in health boards, I've worked with senior police officers, I've worked with nurses, I've worked with GPs, I've worked with business people, worked with first line managers, people new into a management post. Really, as a coach, I use the person's expertise to help them. I'm not a mentor, although I do mentoring for some people if they ask it in a specific area. But as a coach, my role is to help people get the best out of themselves. So through basically what we're doing now, having a conversation, getting to know them a bit better, I use some techniques, basically just questions, to help people understand themselves better. And from that point of view, I could work with anybody. I tend to focus on service industries rather than production type industries. Although there's no reason why I couldn't work with a production manager if somebody wanted some assistance, because again, I'm using their expertise. And like I said, the diversity of clients I've got, which if anybody hops on my website, they can see quite a few different categories of testimonial I've got from quite a diverse range of people. It illustrates the point really. And I know some people have said to me, well, you need to focus on an area. And you think, well, yeah, that's fine, you can. But if you do, you can miss out not being able to help people. And the thing about coaching, which makes me do it, is I like helping people. So I'm always prepared to have a conversation with somebody. And most of the time, I mean, there's been a couple of occasions that I can remember in my sort of 15-year career as a coach, where for a couple of reasons, 2 or 3 people have decided it wasn't for them, which is fine. Because the thing is about taking a coach on, we will hold you to account for your own decisions.
Yeah.
It's not us. It's not about us as a coach. It's about you as the client. So if you ask us to undertake something through coaching, I'm very clear when I start with people and contract with people that they are giving full consent to the process. because the other thing is about being a coach, I'm pretty good at understanding body language, and I can usually tell if somebody isn't fully committed, and I can sort of see through things. So it doesn't take me long if somebody says, "Oh yeah, it's fine." Okay.
I know.
So,
when I did my coaching training several years ago now, and one of the things we did was like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you? And someone will come back with 8.5. Well, you're not committed. You're not committed. I want the 10. You've got to be committed to the process, and if you're not committed to the process, and you've got to find the stumbling block, haven't you? So it's a fun way of getting into people's mindset. I mean, you mentioned then about mentoring and coaching. So for you, what's the difference between the two? Because I know a lot of people get those two things mixed up, and I know for me they're very different. So what's your interpretation on them?
A mentor is somebody you turn to for help. So there's quite a lot of, for example, people out there who call themselves a business coach. And to me, that means they will help you grow your business. They are people who are experienced in running businesses, and they will come to you and help you develop your business and help you get your marketing straight, get your accounts in place, make sure everything you're doing is legally accurate and all this kind of thing. So it is about advice giving. It is about being taught something, because you're turning to them for specific help in an area of work. Where on the other hand, a coach is somebody who will help you understand where you are, help you understand yourself better, and then help you to move forward to achieve what you want. Now, there is a health warning on that, in that once people understand what they actually want, sometimes I find they don't actually want it.
Yeah.
Which sounds silly, but if you want something, you have to give up certain other things. And quite often the killer question is, well, if you do achieve X, what are you prepared to go without? Or if you did achieve X, what is something that you would be prepared to do less of, or something. And quite often people focus on the want rather than the loss. And if the loss, if giving something up or stopping doing something is greater to you than the goal, quite often then people refocus their goal and think, well, I don't really want that. Think, okay. Because I do find quite often with clients, they will come to me and say, oh, I've got a real problem with X. And you think, oh, okay. And to me, it's a case of, yeah, fair enough. You're calling it that. It's like, I've got a problem that's called, I don't know, Jeremy. And you think, oh, okay. And really the problem's called Doug. And you think, oh, okay. So we need to tackle the Doug, not the Jeremy, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And very often it's about peeling the problem away. So I always refer to it as a metaphor of onions, in the sense of you sort of peel away the layers, and eventually you get to the right one, and you get to the nub of the problem. And at that point, people suddenly realise, oh, okay, that's what's. And then you can start working with them. And very often, people just label a problem because it's convenient to them to package it up in that way, because it's more palatable. And like I said, there is a health warning with coaching, and I do say this to clients, and we do have a bit of a laugh about it, but it's quite serious. Is I'm not responsible for taking you where you want to go, because it's not what I want you to go or what I want you to do. It's what you want to do, and you're employing me to help you get where you want to go. So, if you end up somewhere you weren't expecting, that's a case of, well, that's a decision you've made. I haven't made, I won't have made you do it or told you to do it or whatever,
It's not down to you to tell them what the goal is. It's down to you to hold them accountable to get there, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, and it's about constructing the goal, because quite often, as you know, I was just saying, you know, people think about more of an objective,
yeah,
you know, and you know, a very good life coaching example is dieting. You know, in the sense of, oh, I can't lose weight. I really want to lose weight. I think, yeah, okay, well, what's the goal? Well, I want to lose weight. No, that's not the goal.
that's not the goal.
That's the method. What do you want? And you know, it's kind of, well, I'm going on holiday in 6 months. I want to look good in my trunks or my bikini or whatever. And you think, right, okay, so that's the goal. Losing weight is part of it. You know, and it's then building around everything around that to make them understand it's the whole thing. It's the experience that we're working on, the outcome.
The outcome.
So I prefer to use outcomes rather than goals, really, because it's a bit broader and you can attach more to it. And I think the more real you get it for somebody, they buy into it.
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, you touched on something that I know I've worked on with my coach in the past, and it is knowing what the goal is, because quite often you think you know what the goal is,
yeah,
and it's not where you want to be. So I know with my coach, she calls them smart with a heart goals. So it's not just about a goal, it's the why you want to be, where you want to be, and quite often what you think is where you want to end up isn't where you want to end up when you look at the whys and what the reasoning is behind that. I know you've mentioned a few times, like on your website and on Twitter, and when we had a chat at Halton is Fair, that you use psychometric techniques. I mean, does that help delve into the whys, why people want to be where they want to be?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I mean, there's two I primarily use. I mean, just to take you back to that issue of goals, one word I quite often avoid using in coaching is why, because it's more about justification, and sometimes people then get defensive. So I do find that it's best avoided unless absolutely necessary. And I think the issue, you know, people all know about SMART goals, which is great. But I tend to think SMARTies in the sense of you also need to think of emotion, and you also need to think about environment, because you need to bear in mind your SMART objective, SMART goal, SMART outcome is fitting in the world of everybody else's. And I think having an awareness of that as well, connected with how you feel about things, will make it more alive for you.
Yeah, so that's with the heart side of things.
Going back to psychometrics, there's two I use. The prime one I use is mental toughness, which a lot of people, you know, look at me and think, you know, do you train people to do pro athlete events? Not that I didn't think, well, no, but you know, having a degree of mental toughness does help athletes because it's more than just about fitness. And I think the research that's been around mental toughness in over the last sort of 20 years has proven beyond all doubt, because there's oceans and oceans of academic proof out there talking about it. And it's about personal resilience and grit. It's about how you can bounce back, you know, when dealing with problems, or how you react to yourself when you're faced with adversity and being cool under pressure, as well as having that determination to keep going in the face of sort of rejection. So I partner with an organisation, again local to me. You know, they are really the global leader in this product, and it's a very simple online test. Takes about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, something like that. Results pretty much instant, and it measures your control. It measures, you know, how you look at controlling your own life. It looks at how you control your own emotions. It also looks at commitment and what your attitude is to goals and achievements. And it also examines challenge and how you feel around taking risks or not taking risks, and how you learn from experiences. And then finally, it also then looks at confidence. So that's about looking at confidence in yourself and your interpersonal skills. So it's a very rounded tool, very cost effective as well. But as a coach, it gives me very quickly a very deep insight into a person that ordinarily would take me a few sessions to get to the bottom of. And the questions are quite good. So the thing is, you can't trick it, because there are some psychometrics you soon work out, that's what it's doing, so I'll answer this way now. You can't do it for that. It doesn't work like that. So, and I've had a lot of success with it. So, I mean, we can look at people finding out about themselves to understand more. And usually we end up working in a specific area, and quite consistently people will see the report, because they get one which is focused towards them, and I get one which is focused towards me, and they sort of look at the report and read it too, and think, yeah, that's me. I've yet to have somebody who said that's definitely not me. Everybody says, that's me. I mean, that's the main one I focus on. And the other one I do is a leadership measure, which looks at leadership style. So again, very useful for managers or recruiters trying to understand if they're recruited somebody specific. They can get a certain type of person if they want. So, and again, it looks at goals, it looks at motivation, it's how you engage with people, it's about how you reward people, how you motivate people. So it's all basic management skills. And again, the very detailed report, very quick report that comes out because of the questions of search proven. So a very cost-effective tool if you're looking to build a team, a management team. So if you bring the two measures together, which some people do, you are creating significant personal insights. And of course, if you want to, we can actually structure the tools so that if you want to assess a whole team, you can assess a whole team, and you can identify where your strengths or weaknesses are. So one example is, for example, a sales team where I know there was some issues with sales performance, and some of them were actually struggling with the concept of a goal, which for a sales team,
that's a bit worrying, isn't it?
It's a bit worrying. So there was some work to do around understanding, well, okay, this is how we need to, this is what we need to do to get people to understand what we need to do.
So, I mean, that was actually quite interesting about bringing the two sides of it together. I mean, where would you come in as a coach then, doing that? If you've got a team with these two, I would imagine, quite in-depth reports and data, is that something you would work individually with each person, or just on the management of the team for that group of people?
Well, initially what I do is I'd sit down with the whole team and get to know them and try and understand what they're trying to achieve, because usually you're commissioned by HR lead who thinks they understand where the business is going, and sometimes they don't for various reasons. And sitting down, getting to understand the management team first of all. From that, the coaching can take two ways. One is that you give people individual coaching because it's about individual performance. But a growth area now is team coaching, or team building, as it used to be called.
Team building.
Where it's about getting people to work together more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing is that if you do use some of these psychometrics, it gives you something firm to work on. So as the coach, I would know who to ask what questions of which person to say, well, the person one has got a weakness there, to pull the team up. Person two hasn't got that weakness, they've got a different one. And you're trying to get the blend right. And the thing is, with mental toughness, the opposite is mental sensitivity. Usually people who do have mental toughness in the higher scale tend to be more successful only insofar as that it's they're more determined and they're more prepared to push forward, if you like, and deal with it. Where mentally sensitive people, although there's many examples of those caricatures being successful too. The danger is if you're more one way than another, you have to be aware of that, otherwise that'll cause a problem. So if somebody's consistently mentally tough, usually their interpersonal skills aren't very good, which is the sensitivity side. So it's about awareness. So it's a case of, okay, so if your general type is tough or sensitive, when you need to be the opposite, you need to know that, because you then need to switch. So I then spend time working with people to get them into role, and we normally think of characters where, you know, they can perhaps see themselves stepping into the role. And I think some of the exercises I do with people, sort of walking in others' shoes, helps them understand how others see them and how others want them to be for the role that they're doing. And from that point of view, it's very good going through the techniques to help people then understand what's expected of them. So I think the real key to this is understanding yourself, because you can go through life, you know, switching your role, switching your personality to the situations, because really you're tailoring yourself to the situation and the audience you're working in, which is what it's about. And in so doing, it does make you more effective. But it's all about personal insight, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, I picked the name as the company.
Yeah. Which, I mean, we never talked about this right at the very beginning, which is what I normally talk about. It was how did you get into the coaching role and what you do now?
Well, it's been a chance, really, in the sense of that I had some feedback that I wasn't very good at communicating with people, which I thought, not sure about that. I thought, okay, fair enough. I've always been reasonably popular, I thought, you know, in life. And it was suggested I should go on a course in NLP. And those who don't know about it, neuro-linguistic programming is a form of understanding the mind, psychology. I must admit, it was a huge awakening moment in myself. It was a really amazing journey, and I ended up doing 2 years worth of study in the subject. And part of that journey was some coaching. And I then realised, I thought, well, hang on, I've actually been doing this without realising it. So I then had an opportunity to do a coaching course. So I got myself qualified as a level 7 coach, which is, you know, postgraduate, highest level you can do unless you go into a doctorate. And then I started my coaching journey, which is 15 years ago now. And I've spent my time doing a lot of working mainly in public sector areas, because that's where the clients were. And it's just about, as I said at the start of the discussion, it's about the experience of helping people. Because I get, I know it's very corny, you know, but I get real buzz out helping people, because you can actually see when you get to a point where somebody is, you know, somebody has that realization, you know, through the questioning and the experience of working with me about where they are and what they want to do. You can see it. It's almost like there's a light bulb pops out of the head, because, and you think,
I mean, that's a lot of why I do what I do. And it is, and it's not corny at all. It's that when they get that aha moment and the penny drops and you see it, you see the whole face lights up, and it's like, that's my buzz. That's what I get out of it, actually seeing that. And it was one of the reasons, because I don't coach, but I did coaching training, which helps me when I'm working with people I work with on the online visibility and stuff, to get to that point with what you actually want out of this? And because most people go, I need to be everywhere and I need to do, and that's not what they want. It's not what they want. So, and getting that penny drop moment is absolutely, for me anyway, that's the buzz I get out of it. So no, I don't think it's corny, because I'm there with you. So from a different angle, but there you go. But
you do see people's physiology change when you start coaching them, because this is what I was saying in the discussion. You know, some of the training I've been doing, I've done over the years, and certainly working with clients over the years. A coachee will be extremely clever if they can kid a coach, because we can see through most things. And if we think there's something going on, we'll just keep digging with questions, because we'll find a way around it. And at the end of the day, the absolute critical thing about a coach is you've got to have somebody that you absolutely trust. It's got a safe environment. It's a safe space. You know, it's completely confidential. And from that point of view, they've got to, because if they're not prepared, if somebody doesn't feel that trust and doesn't feel comfortable, then they'll do themselves a disservice, because they have to open up. They have to, because sometimes you get to a question where somebody will say, I'm not ready to answer that. And you think, oh, okay, fair enough, we park that. You know, sometimes we uncover things that people aren't quite expecting, that reveal that it's holding them back. And it can be sometimes I've had to refer people for counselling, what have you, where we've uncovered something.
And
I'll leave it at that.
Difference, isn't it, between coaching and counselling? Because you're not a counsellor, and that's not what you do. You're a coach. But again, it comes down to the peeling the onions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the layers. From a personal point of view, it's been an absolute journey with coaches, and then between the coaches and bouncing back into with various forms of therapy, because you hit that block where there's something a lot deeper than, you know, that you need to get out, sort of get rid of the crap. So, and go.
Well, I think the thing is, you know, counselling will help you understand where you are. You know, coaching will take you from where you are to where you
want to be. Yeah. Well, it's just popped up saying we've hit half an hour. So that it's gone again, nowhere. So before we wrap it up, is there anything that you want to bring up? Because I know we've sat here and we've had a chat. Is there anything particular that you want to mention?
Not really, Jan. I mean, the thing is, I'm quite happy to talk to people. As I said, I'm quite happy to talk to anybody if they think I might be able to help them. So, I mean, I offer a free, no obligation first meeting. You know, we can do it on Zoom or we can do it face to face. I'm happy either way. I mean, I'm based in Cheshire, North Wales. So, I mean, I cover sort of North Wales, Mid Wales, Shropshire, Cheshire, up to past yourselves, up to Warrington. Quite happy to travel to meet people, or we can do it on Zoom and sort something out. And all I would say, if somebody, there's a real issue, I think, of people not being prepared to admit that they need some help. And, you know, if you look at all these major agencies, particularly around sort of mental health agencies and the like, where, you know, it's accepted, if you know, it's okay not to be okay, and it's true. But it's also the same around coaching. If people are reluctant sometimes to admit they've been to a coach, because they don't want to see that, you know, they don't want people to think they couldn't manage or they're struggling or whatever. But to me, it's about, and most coaches would agree, it's positive that people actually seek help to help them move forward. And I think society needs to be a bit more understanding of people and say, yeah, it's a good thing, you know, and celebrate it rather than criticize it. But the other fascinating thing about this is people will come to you and sort of, I'm not telling anybody. You think, oh, okay. But anybody around them after they've been coached will see that they're different. And they know they haven't gone to bed one night and then woke up a different person. So, I mean, they know their friends and close colleagues will know they've they've been talking to somebody, or they've done something, or they've been on a course, or so you can't hide it. And I mean, what I tend to find is people who are, people who've been coached, they are, after the experience, very, very different in a good way, because it's what they want.
Self-awareness, again, isn't it? It's on that journey to knowing yourself and doing the best for yourself as well. And I think people see that as quite selfish when it isn't, because when you're improving yourself, you're also helping others around you. So it's and
if you look at if you read any sort of autobiographies, biographies, or whatever of successful people, it's quite usual to see, somewhere in there you will see that they've worked with a coach at some point. And it just illustrates the fact that these really successful people are only successful because they've got good people around them helping them improve themselves.
Exactly.
So if you're interested in improving yourself, I'd be quite happy to have if anybody who's watching this interested in improving themselves, we'll have to have a conversation with them.
That's it. Right, so we're going to have to wrap up because it's shouting at me. Where can people contact you?
Well, they can either give me a ring. My number's 07593 362 919, or they can send me an email, which is letstalk@insightleadershipsolutions.co.uk, or indeed drop on the website and have a look around and complete the form, which is insightleadershipsolutions.co.uk. I'm on Twitter, regular participant in HaltonHour, and the handle is Insight LSL. If you want to follow me and drop me a DM, be quite happy to have set up a conversation. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn. We've got a business page for Insight Leadership, and I've also got my own profile there if you want to connect with me. So reasonably approachable anywhere on social media.
Fab, and I'll put all of those links underneath the video as well.
Okay, all right, great.
Well, thank you so much, Ray. Thanks for giving up some time this morning to have a chat. It's been really insightful. How corny is that?
Thanks for the invitation, Jan. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a very, very good experience. So
okay, well, I'm glad it has been. Okay, speak to you soon, Ray. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye now.